Welcome in, everyone. So happy to have you all. I see a lot of people loading in right now, so we're going to give it just a minute for everyone to get on. But while we're waiting, I do want to let you guys know just a couple quick housekeeping tips. We do have the chat disabled for attendees, but I'll be manning the chat and dropping some helpful links in there for you all. When you click a link, it will open up in a new tab, so don't worry about that. And make sure that you get familiar with that Q&A tab because we are going to have an awesome Q&A session towards the end where we'll try to answer a couple of questions for you guys. Welcome in. All right. Well, it looks like we have a quorum, so we will get started. Welcome to everyone. I'm so glad that you're here. And it's been such an exciting week at Alignable of events that have really focused on building community and one of the biggest opportunities for small businesses right now, AI adoption. So today you have the privilege of hearing from Lina Ochman, Head of Small Business Growth, an expert from Anthropic, which is the company behind Claude, and our very own Geoff Cramer, Alignable's VP of Strategy and Ops and Head of AI Growth. They're going to be sharing how small businesses and small business owners especially can really move beyond just chatting with AI and how to start using it like an actual team member that really handles the real work that's on your to-do list. Now, for those just joining us, I do want to mention one more time that the chat is disabled for attendees, but I will be manning that chat and giving those links to you. If you have questions, no matter what period of the event it's in, go ahead and drop it in the Q&A tab, and we will try to address a few of those at the end of the session. Now, make sure you also stay to the end to receive an incredible free offer that we have for you from the Anthropic team. You don't want to miss the Q&A session or that offer. And as we get into the agenda, we will be starting with some brief introductions about the experts' backgrounds. Then we'll go into a really great discussion of some of the top questions on small business owners' minds. Then at the end, Lina and Geoff will also be sharing some incredible demos of some game-changing tools for small business owners. And we'll be followed by a little bit of Q&A at the end, so make sure you get those questions in. Over to you, Geoff.
Thank you so much, Britt. And great to meet everybody. So my name is Geoff. I am, as Britt said, VP of Strategy and Operations at Alignable. I've been here for over 7 years now, but I've spent my entire career either working in, owning, or trying to help small business. And I am really quite passionate about it. And I think I'm very, very excited today to be speaking with Lina. You guys, if you know how big a deal Anthropic is in this kind of transformation to an AI world, then you should be too. But if you don't, we are going straight to the source of truth for how AI is going to impact small business. And I think it's a really fantastic opportunity if you learn and take the steps to adopt it, which is what we're really trying to help you do. So thank you so much again, Lina, for joining us. And you want to give yourself, the attendees, a little bit of a background?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be online today. My name's Lina. Small business is really near and dear to my heart. My parents and I, we immigrated into this country. They were both small business owners. My mom has a business right now, so I grew up around helping them through all of the various to-do tasks that they had. And here at Anthropic, my job is to understand the unique pain points of small businesses, represent you internally, and then make sure that we are providing the products and services that service you specifically and make Anthropic and Claude really useful for you.
That's fantastic. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so they can just see us have this fireside chat. The first thing, just to set a little framing for everyone, we speak to thousands of small business owners, obviously, at Alignable. We've run a lot of surveys recently. And what we've seen is that a majority of business owners have tried AI. They're dabbling, they're using AI, they're chatting, maybe with ChatGPT, to have it draft an email or ask a question. But really, the gap is that only about 1 in 4 actually have figured out how to get AI to accomplish work, to take tasks off your to-do list, which is the really kind of exciting thing that we believe AI can do, especially for time-starved small business owners. And so that's what this session is really going to be about. We're going to help the people who have not started at all. Where do you get started? And for those who are kind of looking to make that leap, how do you do it? It's a really interesting timing. So I will say, when we first started setting up this session, we did not know that Anthropic was going to launch this new product, Claude for Small Business, just on Wednesday. So the timing has worked out fantastically because they have an easier solution than we were probably going to talk about before. when we first planned this event. So that's really exciting. And then, as Britt mentioned, there's also a really special program that Alignable, Anthropic, and actually Harvard and MIT are all working together on a study to really see how much AI can positively impact small business. That I'm going to talk about at the end. But again, I think Britt said part of that study is getting free access to these tools. So we really are trying to figure out how do we help every small business adopt these tools and become more successful. So that said, I'm going to jump in and just start peppering Lina with questions. The first one is kind of the why. You know, you guys just launched this new Claude for small business. You talked about how small business is important to you personally. Like, why does small business matter to Anthropic and to this, you know, the new AI world?
Yeah, I mean, look, small businesses are nearly half of the US economy, and we believe you deserve the same access to AI that any Fortune 500 company gets. But historically, you haven't had the time or the tools or anybody building with you or for you. And so the company behind Claude, Anthropic, is a public benefit corporation, meaning we're building AI that works for everyone, not just the biggest companies. And that's literally written into our charter. So that's why we build Claude for small business to help close that gap and ensure that you have the softest landing and the biggest leg up in the AI transformation. Along with my growing up in small business, what's made this work personal for me is being in the room with owners over the past year. I've sat with people who have run consulting firms, manufacturing companies, retail shops, and the same thing comes up every time. You're short on time. So every hour spent on invoices or scheduling or chasing follow-ups is an hour not spent on what you actually built the business to do. And so that's what AI can give back. The question isn't whether AI can do the busy work, it's what you'll do with the hours that you get back. And we know deep in our core that we can help.
That's fantastic. And I mean, that aligns so much. You know, Alignable was founded 12 years ago now, very much with the same mission and principle is to help small business. And, you know, we believe that by connecting them, by helping them meet one another, network together, they have, you know, they're more powerful and they can compete with those big businesses who, like you said, they have access to this tech, they have access to scale. And so I love how closely our missions align there. That's fantastic.
Same.
So I know something I've heard is that a lot of members feel like everyone else has this figured out. I know if you watch any sort of, you know, Facebook or Instagram Reels or TikTok, it's just like people talking, oh, well, look, I run a billion-dollar business with, you know, 15 minutes and a bunch of AI. For the people who feel like they're behind, do you really think that that's what's going on? And what do you tell someone who's just starting from absolute scratch?
I'm going to tell you one thing is that everybody feels behind, including the people that you think are ahead. Even myself, the other day, I was learning a new part of the product and I sat for 12 hours trying to learn it and figure it out. And at that time, I even felt behind and I use it every day. So I think what I would say is just let that go, give yourself permission to try and experiment and iterate and make it work for you. And here's the thing that many won't tell you is that you already have the most important skill for working with AI. It's management. All of you are business owners. So if you've ever onboarded an employee, given them direction, reviewed their work, stood up behind the result, you already know how to do this. You just haven't pointed that skill at AI yet. So, and the framing we love to give those that are just starting with AI and with Claude in particular is thinking of Claude as a brilliant new hire. It knows a lot about the world, but on day one, it knows nothing about you, your business, or how you like to get things done. And so the more context that you give it, the more useful it gets. It's exactly like a real new hire. And we teach a framework. It's called the 4Ds. It's delegation, description, discernment, and diligence. This is our AI fluency framework. We have a course for this online that's free. And what it relates to is you decide what to hand over to the AI. You give it clear direction. you check the work, and you own the result. And it's an iterative loop. And these are 4 things that you do with every person who works for you already. And this framework works on any AI tool, not just Claude. And that's how I started. I took the courses. I was really curious about it. And then I just talked to it. And I now have very deep conversations with it. And I do think Claude is my literal coworker, and so many more things. My assistant, my chief of staff, my operator, my data analyst. But I learned all of that just by asking and being curious and being like, how can you help me with this? This is the problem I'm thinking about. And so that kind of like brings you back to that blank chat box problem. You just treat it like a conversation with a new employee. Tell it a little bit about yourself. I run a small bakery. Here's what we do. Here's how what I'm trying to get done today. Help me think through it, and just speak in plain English or whichever language you speak, because Claude can understand multiple languages the way you'd brief a person, and then just keep going and iterate.
That's fantastic. And the analogy, that's exactly how I describe it to people as well. It really is hiring that person, and they are brilliant. But if you don't teach them how, if you don't give them a login to your tools or a computer, and if you don't teach them what it is that you do in your business, they're not going to be all that effective. And I think
No one
that's a
can read
great,
your mind, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So for those business owners, kind of tangibly, if there was one thing they were going to do tomorrow morning, what would you recommend they do to break that ice?
Yeah, and I mean, look, there's 2 groups of business owners that I speak to. There are those that are just looking to get started, or those that have tried it and now are craving a little bit more in terms of workflows and automations. For those that are just trying to get started, I would take one task, maybe an email that you're most dreading writing today, and give Claude examples of your tone and your prior emails, and just ask it to draft it for you and just see what happens. For those that are a little further along but don't know where to get started with the automations, this is why we built Claude for Small Business. We have a product named Cowork, which and I'll walk you through it later, but it is kind of your thinking and doing partner. And with the small business plugin, you connect it to the tools you already use, your email, your books, your payroll, and you just ask Claude to help you onboard. And then it takes it from there. And I'll show it to you in the demo.
That's fantastic. Love it. Um, so as we've been talking about, there's a lot of businesses using it to chat, to brainstorm, maybe drafting an email, but that it's a lot of them want to make that leap to it's actually accomplishing work. What do you think separates the businesses who have made that leap already?
That's a great question. So I would say the ones who stall out try to boil the ocean and take on too much. They think they have to do everything all at once. And you don't, and you shouldn't. What I would do is start with one simple workflow and get it right. And once you're satisfied, move on to the next one. Take on more complexity as you get more and more comfortable with Claude and Claude Cowork. We just announced an SMB tour across the country, and I was at our first training event in Chicago yesterday. And I was talking with a more AI fluent owner and asked him what his aha moment was. And he told me that one of his staff members who had to send their distributor a daily report of new orders, and every distributor wants the data in their own weird format. So this person spends a chunk of time every afternoon downloading PDFs from emails, parsing the orders, and rebuilding them in Excel for that specific distributor's format. So through Cowork, he set up a job that triggers in the afternoons, pulls the PDFs, parses the orders, and compiles it in the Excel automatically. And so this task, maybe 10 minutes per order or 10 minutes per email, would take over their whole afternoon every single day. And now it just happens in the background, and that person can go do so much more. But that was like that owner's big aha moment of, hey, let me like figure out this like really repetitive, mundane task that somebody has to do, and let me make it work in Claude. and then I'll move on to others. And so that's the bridge. So do one job, get it right, talk to Claude about how to do it, and it'll help you.
That's fantastic. I love that example. And it also reminds me, I think, you talk about treating AI, especially in this case, like an employee. And, you can, when you bring in a new employee, you could sit them down and you can talk at them for hours and tell them what they're supposed to do. But usually the best thing is just show them what you've already done. And
Mhm.
AI is the same way. So when you get like you don't have to get overwhelmed as thinking about I have to map out exactly, I've got to explain exactly how I want this data to turn into this format. You just go and take the last few weeks of the that you've done it already,
Totally.
drop it into Claude and say, this is what I want you to do. Take over for me now. Look at what's happening, understand it, create a plan, and then create an automation. That was a big
Exactly.
unlock, even for me and my team early on, was
Mhm.
realizing we didn't have to talk at Claude to teach it everything. We could just show it what we had been doing prior.
Mhm. Totally.
Yeah. So something interesting in our data that came up, like I said, we've been surveying over time, but especially more recently, about just our members' use of AI. So overall, Claude is the third most of the big AI companies across our member base. ChatGPT is number one, Gemini is number two, Claude's number three. Um, but when we look at just the businesses who say they are actually getting work done, they're not just chatting, they're not just using it for content generation, they're actually having automation run. Claude is the number one tool. Why do you think that is? Like, what is it about Claude that really works particularly well when you want to get stuff done?
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome to hear. And I do have some theories. And honestly, chat is a great place to start. And the products you listed are really great products. But going from chatting with AI to automating with AI isn't a small step. It's a change in what you're asking the AI to do for you. And so when AI just answers the questions in a chat box, a wrong answer costs you nothing. You read it, you shrug, you move on. But when the AI is running a process, so like touching your QuickBooks or drafting from your customer list or queuing up invoices, the bar changes. And now it has to reason reliably across many steps, not make things up and actually finish the work and be safe with your data. So my theory is that the owners who cross that line aren't a random sample. They're the ones who have started caring about reliability and trust much more. And when you select on that, you do tend to land on Claude for two reasons. One is the models themselves. Chat rewards a fast, fluent answer. Automation rewards a reliable one. And Claude is built on the best models for doing those chains and workflows, and also for the reliability and trust. The other theory is co-work. It's the environment where Claude actually does the work. So it connects to the tools you already run on pretty seamlessly. But it also keeps you in the driver's seat. So nothing sends, posts, or pays until you approve it. So an owner going past the chat has an on-ramp built for them, but instead of having to engineer automation from scratch, but they also keep the human elements of approving everything and making sure that the automation works the way they want it to before it reaches their customers.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And honestly, I mean, that's the reason that Claude is the model we use in all of our AI-based features. It is more predictable. It's easier to get the kind of results you want every time, which is really important for a platform like ours with millions of users. We have to have a lot of variability, but at the same time, it needs to be reliably excellent for us to feel comfortable putting it in front of our members.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit more about examples, because I love the example you already gave. What are some other examples of small businesses you've seen do this really well? What were they trying to solve? What did they do, and how did that change their business or their operations?
Yeah. So one example I had in mind is Mac, who runs a remanufactured auto electronics business in California. So his problem was actually his own sales data. So over the years, his product line had changed and his SKUs have changed. And different sales channels ended up using different SKU numbers for what's basically the same product. So when he sat down to analyze the year or plan the year, he couldn't actually see how a product had performed over time. And running those analyses would mean hours of manual tagging and reinventing the wheel, and him being a bottleneck because only he had that deep product knowledge of how to analyze and parse the data. And he could only do it when he had free stretches of time. So he looked at Claude to help. And so what he did is he didn't just like dump a spreadsheet in and say, analyze this. He gave Claude context. He gave it the training to say, hey, these are how these are what my products are. These are how my channels work. These are the dips that I've had. These are the changes in the SKUs that I've had. And he also uploaded his real product history and all of his SKU mappings. But then the next kind of level power move that he also did was after he would run the analysis, he would check this work. He would check the work. He would ask, did I group the SKUs right? Is this declining product line real or just a SKU change that it missed? And he would go and point out those issues, and then Claude remembered it for the next time. And so now he can run this analysis every time he does planning, or every quarter, whenever, or month when he needs to close his books or report internally on the product's effectiveness. And so now it just only takes him a fraction of the time, and he reuses the same setup to draft all of his SOPs too. So he's the one who decides, and he can stand behind every number as well.
That's awesome. I love that. And it brings up another piece. I think, again, I sound like a broken record. Just like an employee, you're constantly monitoring and training, right? You're constantly trying to improve. And I think that's something we've also seen a lot of internally is, the more feedback you can give, and that can be simple, like you said, just chat back and say, hey, you got that wrong. Here's why. Let's not make that mistake again. But you can also do it more structured and have things automatically feedback in a loop. And that feedback just continues to improve and improve whatever the outcome it is you're looking for.
Totally.
Excellent. So what's the most surprising use case? Have you seen anything where you're like, wow, that's really amazing. That's cool. We never thought of something like that.
I think that for me, I've been so focused on making sure to get like really operational and back office use cases dialed and kind of understand how those processes work today. And so I'll give you one surprising one where the owner taught the model logic that intercepted what the model's logic was to achieve one of his use cases. And so this is a butcher shop in Brooklyn, and the task was paying the bills. Prospect Butcher is a whole animal butcher shop. They have 2 locations. They're worker owned. And like a lot of small businesses, their accounts payable was something that followed the owner home. He'd check the bank balances at dinner. He'd try to figure out if he could pay a vendor tonight and still make payroll on Friday. And some weeks it just didn't happen, and the vendors had to wait. So he set up Claude to pull every invoice across both locations, read the cash position, and hand him one recommendation every Monday. Here's who to pay and how much. And what he found was, naturally, as the logic is you want to pay the biggest invoices first. And that's what Claude was recommending. But actually, what his experience taught him is it's actually the bigger invoices were from farms where he buys whole animals. And those are actually typically his most patient vendors because they have the strongest cash positions. And so the ones who would chase him down are the $600 bills, and who are the smallest vendors, but those stacked up. And so he, before he implemented the workflow, he ran historical data against it because he already knew the right answers and saw where he has to retrain the model's logic to give his own business context. And so now Claude knows, and Claude Cowork knows, that he needs to prioritize the smaller bills first. And so those 2 to 3 hours scattered across every evening became a very focused 45 minutes. And for the real win, and why this was like really surprising, was this aha moment for me, because I wouldn't have thought that was that the logic to me would have been the biggest invoice too, is that now those who depend on the reliable cash flow exactly the way he does get paid on time every week, and also help keep his business going because it's a supply chain.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. Um, so let's change the topic a little bit and talk about something I know a lot of the people in this room are worried about. I think your and our data has shown that one of the biggest concerns for small business owners when it comes to AI is data security. So you're telling me I can feed Claude my customer list, right? That's my secret sauce, my financials. Is that data safe? Where does it go? How are they protected when they're using AI? And should they be concerned about that?
Yeah. And this is a really great question. And it's the first one most business leaders ask me when I talk to them. And what we learn when we kind of unpack it is it's really three questions in one. Do you use my data to train your models? Do I still own my data once I upload it? And is my data safe and secure? Because my customer list, my financials are my two biggest assets other than my time. So, very directly, when you give Claude, say, your QuickBooks or your customer list or your financials, your data is treated as your confidential business property, not as training material for the AI. And let me give you three things that are true, and they're true because they're written in the contract, not because I'm just saying them here. So, one is Anthropic does not train its AI on your business content. Your customer list never becomes something a competitor can pull an answer out of. You own what you put in, and you own what comes out. One caveat worth naming is this is true on our business plans, the team or the enterprise plan. And we normally recommend that small to medium businesses start on the team plan. On the individual plans, the training is on, but there's a setting to turn it off. And I'll include the exact steps in the follow-up material. Now, regardless of plan, two, your data is encrypted the whole way. It's walled off from every other company's data. It's never sold. And when you're done, you could just have it deleted. And three, you don't have to take my word for it. Anthropic is audited every year by outside security firms and holds the same certification as your bank's IT team would demand. SOC 2, ISO, it's all public, and it's at trust.anthropic.com. So if the question is your data safe? Yes, it's written into the contract, and it's built into the same system that major financial institutions and enterprises already trust with their most sensitive data. And if you'd rather not take my word for this, you don't have to. You can open the contract review skill that we've built into the small business plugin, point it to Anthropic's terms of service and the Trust Center, and have it confirm every word I just said.
I love that. Yeah. Use Anthropic to vet Anthropic's own terms of service. That's fantastic. Um, so where do you see AI still failing small business today? Where is it, or where is it not maybe as applicable as other areas?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I would want to reframe that as that it gets misassigned. The failure isn't the technology itself. I think it's just pointing it at the wrong job. So I think most people ask, can AI do this? And I think that the better question is, should it? And the gap between those two is exactly where people get burned. So, three places I would tell an owner, like, not here, not yet, is first is the emotional moments. So, an upset customer or a complaint or a service that went wrong, a conversation with an employee. AI can help you draft the words, but it can't carry the relationship. The second is the higher stakes, hard to undo calls. So, pricing, hiring, signing a contract. AI is great at getting you oriented fast, doing the analysis, pulling the information together so you can decide well, helping you think through the trade-offs and pros and cons. One of my power moves on any analysis that I do is asking it for give me three example or three different ways that this can go and give me the pros and cons of each. And it's like having like a little consultant in my pocket. And so I think the decision, though, has to stay yours. And the real failure mode today is, sometimes AI can be confidently wrong. And so anywhere a mistake is expensive and it's hard to catch, keep your hands on the wheel. Don't let it decide for you. Make the final decision yourself. And so don't outsource. And lastly, don't outsource the things that are your business. So handwritten notes, a personal check-in, the judgment that comes from knowing your customers and your community. If you automate that away, you've automated away the reason people choose you in the first place. And so where should you start? It's the exact opposite. So lower stakes, repetitive, behind the scenes work, the operational, the back office, where if there is a mistake, it's cheap and it's easy to spot. And then you can kind of get more and more complex and hand off more and more to AI.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, right? I think, one of my favorite stories to talk about is how, uh, especially at Alignable, where we have, millions of users, and it's just very few people, and I'm sure very few people on this call got into business to be just like somebody else.
Yeah.
Everybody does it because they think they have a unique, better way of, delivering a product or a service. And you're exactly right. You can't rely on AI to bring that unique flavor
Mm-hmm.
to what you do. But running a business requires you to do a whole lot of things that aren't that thing. And so that's where you can get a lot of help and focus your time and energy. And I know that's, even me and my team, we have been able to focus and spend so much more time on strategy and the future
Mm-hmm.
because those mundane tasks that we had to do are now so much faster and or completely automated.
Totally. The question I always like to ask is like, what would you do with the extra time? And when I speak to business owners, some say, hey, I would spend that time with my family. I want to go spend that time with my friends. I want to spend that time not being stressed. I want, to have dinner and not have to like go do work after I go to dinner, or I will spend that time on growing my business, or I will spend that time on creative pursuits and taking more bets and taking more risks and running faster. And so I think that's kind of the really fun question to ask yourself, and figuring out what it is you can kind of like outsource and let AI handle, and then eventually like automate out so that you and your employees can like put your brain power to the more creative pursuits.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And it kind of reminds me a little of, I just had dinner with a friend of mine last week who owns a one-man consultancy,
Mm-hmm.
and he not tech savvy. He's not on the call, I don't think. Not tech savvy. And he was like, well, I tried AI, I don't really think it works. And I got into it with him and about really what was going on. And he's like, well, I needed to know who all the investors were in this business that I was vetting. So I went into, I think he used Gemini, and I said, hey, who are the investors in this company? And it came back with two of them, but I knew there was more than two. And so I went digging and I had to find up, and I found three more. Um, and I think it's important. It's not the AI, like you just said, right? It's not the tool, it's the use case for the tool. And or in this case, it was really what we've been talking about was he hired, a business analyst in this case, but he didn't teach them how to do their job. He didn't say when you're looking
Mm-hmm.
for investors, there's all these different websites that you want to make sure you check, and this is how you find out who invests in what business. He just asked kind of the generic model, and so as a result, he got kind of a generic answer.
Which
Uh,
also has a knowledge cutoff too,
yeah,
right? So yeah.
exactly right. AI is, if you don't tell it to go look something up fresh, it's going to use
Hmm.
whatever knowledge it has from, some point in history.
Hmm.
Um, What do you think, so aside from maybe not teaching context, because we've talked about that a lot, what do you think the biggest mistake you see small businesses make when they first really try to take AI seriously?
Yeah, well, I actually think you just named it, and it's quitting too early.
Mm,
That's it. I think it's thinking that it doesn't work or that it can't solve your challenges and just being like really generic with it. But I think it's not talking to it and asking it, like in that example, I would have advised and coached that individual to go and say, hey, I found the XYZ people. This doesn't feel like it's enough. Can you tell me like why this doesn't feel like you found everybody? Can you tell me how you reason, how you got to that conclusion? What did you do? And so like really like spending that time with it and coaching it to follow that process. And if I have this kind of concept of like, wouldn't it be cool if, right? And so for me, I always think, okay, what can I do with, Claude? How can Claude help me? And I always think like, wouldn't it be cool if Claude can do this? Or if I'm finding myself doing something multiple times, I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if Claude can just like take this off my plate? And so what I've trained myself to start doing is go into Claude and say, hey, Claude, can you do this? Can you walk me through how you can do it best? What do you need from me in order to make this like a really strong workflow? And it would be easy to just give up because if I just said, hey, do this, but without like iterating on it and engaging with it and collaborating with it. And so it's easy to quit early if you don't see the result in the first in the first two or three chats, but I definitely encourage you to keep getting through that learning curve and that hump. Something that we teach in our tours in particular is, whenever we onboard on a new technology, and especially now when fast onboarding cycles are really something that's really built into a lot of SaaS tools. You expect the learning, the productivity and learning to be linear. But in a technology that's as transformational as AI, and when we think about the internet and moving to like Google Maps from like MapQuest or the Thomas Guide, and printing out or looking at like maps, you had to like tinker with it. You had to kind of like learn, you had to like work through it. And so there's a dip. And so my one advice is just work through that dip, go seek out the information, talk to Claude or whichever AI tool that you use, and just get through that learning curve, and the payoff will come. The
Yeah,
payoff will
I
be
think that's such great advice. And we've seen it and we're tech folks and we see this, like you said, the same thing. And I think it's partly just because AI in so many ways feels like magic, right? But it's not a magic bullet without
yeah,
taking the time to learn and invest, but it just feels so close that it almost you don't feel like you need to learn it and put that kind of
totally,
investment in, but you really do. The difference is just that when you do, the output and the outcome is so amazing compared to
totally.
anything you've done before. That's fantastic. So, um, I think it's time. I would love if you could show us a demo of Claude for small business. I've barely picked away at it a little bit this morning because it just launched this week. So, is that something you could show everybody here and just exactly how it works and how they might accomplish something with it?
Yeah, of course. Let me project my screen. Okay. So in front of me, you have a demo account. For those that are new to Claude, this is your Claude interface. You could go online or you can download a desktop app. Claude Cowork, where Claude for Small Business works, only operates on your desktop. Claude has three products. We have chat, which is your thinking partner, kind of going back and forth partner. Cowork, which is your doing partner. And then code, which helps you build software and it's more geared towards developers. And so With Cowork, first, you have a chat box. You are able to connect different plugins. We have a whole list of active connectors. All you have to do is just choose the plugin, enter your credentials, and all of your data governance carries through. So to install the plugin, you go to Customize. You press the plus button, you go to browse plugins, and there'll be you can search for small business. It's here at the top, and there'll be a little plus button here. And when you press the plus button, it will automatically get added, and all of the skills will be loaded in. So Claude for Small Business comes with 15 skills, which are essentially repetitive tasks, and 15 workflows, which are more agentic skills and more agentic tasks that carry through a task end to end. And the way we built it is we actually spoke to business leaders, and we spoke to and we surveyed business leaders to understand what it is that they do want to offload and what are the most repetitive tasks on top of the tools that they use. And so we came up with these 30, the 15 skills and 15 workflows. And so we have Business Pulse. You can generate call lists. You could clean up your CRM. You can have it give you a Friday performance look back. It can help you chase invoices. It can help you prep your month end. It could help run a growth campaign. It can help you prep the packet that you give to your accountant for your taxes. And I mentioned this one earlier. It could help you review contracts before you engage with your lawyers. And so the cool thing about this is that all you have to do is just naturally say, hey, Claude, help me prep my taxes, or hey, Claude, chase my invoices. But the first skill that I recommend is, hey, Claude, help me onboard onto the SMB plugin. And so I'm already onboarded onto it, and I already have my connectors, but it will ask you for information about you. And so it's running the skill. It's going to show you the progress. It tells you which skill it's invoking right now, and it also has access to your desktop. So if there's ever an output, it could save it to your desktop for you. So while this is running and getting loaded, I'll show you what it's going to bring. It's going to bring up a business intake. And so it's going to ask you for that information about yourself, so you don't have to consistently give that context and information to Claude. So it remembers who you are every time you use it, so you don't have to recreate the wheel. So it's going to ask what kind of business that you run, how many people work with you, what your biggest headaches are, which tools that you use, and how often you'd like it to check in with you. And then it's going to tell you, okay, connect to these tools. Here are the skills that here are the skills that would probably be most useful for you. So it's going to run now. It's going to take that intake. Great. So it knows what the snapshot is, why this matters, and then it's going to keep asking you questions. And so the cool thing is that it also it's going to ask you, do you want me to run a cash flow snapshot now using QuickBooks? It's read only. And so, yeah, let's say run it. It's going to take you through your first skill. And the really great thing is that every step of the chain, it's going to ask you for approval to do the next step. It's going to ask, can I pull this data? Can I bring you, would you like me to draft this email? Would you like me to send this email? And so you're always in the loop, approving it until you tell it, hey, you know what? You don't have to ask me anymore. Just do it. So this is going to pull up this cash flow snapshot. And while it's doing that, I'll actually show you another task, and we'll come back to this. So one of the most popular tasks that we heard is that you'd like a system to help you triage your leads. So you have a lot of emails coming in, getting logged, or leads coming in, getting logged in your CRM, and you don't feel like you can follow up diligently, and you might be missing sales because of it. So in natural language, you could say, hey, Claude, help me triage my leads. And so what Claude is going to do now is it's going to find the triage my lead skill. We already, in this case, have HubSpot connected and we have Gmail connected. So it's going to pull in HubSpot data. It's going to understand your ICP based on the business that you already told it that you run. It's going to give you the steps that it's going to run here, and you're going to see it work through it step by step. And so it's telling me I have 10 leads total, and it's going to pull in scoring data from HubSpot. Now it's looking at notes for these leads. And while that's happening, let's check in on our cash flow. So here, it pulled in QuickBooks and PayPal data to build a forecast. Here, it pulled in data on AR aging detail and overdue transactions. It pulled in data on my unpaid bills. And now it's building a forecast. Most of my bills are past due here. It's giving me an AR aging summary. It's asking if it can pull in more data. It's giving me accounts payable aging summary. And now it's going to be building out my cash flow forecast. So while it's working on that, let's go back to triage my leads. And so the cool thing is that you can run this simultaneously and do these tasks in parallel. Before you had to do it step by step, and now it's kind of just like doing it for you. So here's my lead list. I have 10 leads coming from HubSpot that I need to call or follow up on. And so I can say, hey, draft, I'm going to read through these. Looks like this one's 3.5 million contract signed, so probably I should email them. And so Claude is now going to ask me, okay, do you want to draft follow-up emails for any of these? Do you want to propose calendar slots or both? And I'll say, draft me the follow-up for to Hannah Weiss. Yep. We're still working here. So now for the lead triage, it's checking email history with Hannah to match her tone before drafting. And so, great. It gave me the email, and I can say stage in Gmail. And while that's happening, we have our cash flow snapshot, and it's giving me the analysis of how it got there, what the risks are, and gives me a Google Doc as well. And so now for emails, we have, I'm just going to take you to my email. Can you see my email? This is
Yep.
great. Let's see. All right, here's the draft, ready to send.
That's fantastic.
That's it.
That is absolutely amazing. I think that is so great to see. You think about what you just did in, I don't know, 8 minutes, developing an entire cash flow forecast and reaching out to your top lead is wild. I think to think of how, and as owners get more and more comfortable with this and they build more and more skills for their agent or for Claude for small business, just how much you can get done. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And you're right, that the cash flow forecast is something usually done bleary-eyed at a desk, at 11 o'clock at night. And I think to
Totally.
give that time back is so spectacular. Thank you so much for doing that. I think that's really, really great to see. And honestly, it's really in line with the way that Alignable sees the future of small businesses working with technology and AI. We've been really convinced for a while now that this is how the world is going to shift. It's fantastic to see that the leaders in AI for business are kind of making that shift easier. But we've built similar things into our platform. And I'm actually really excited. I'm going to do a quick demo as well. Let me share my screen. Let's see. All right, so we should be back here. For many of our members know, we've been adding more and more AI-based features to the platform, but this one just launched today to all of our paid members in beta. So we're really, really excited, and it's something we call Ask Ali. So Ali is the name we've given our networking coach. That's one of the biggest challenges members have. They know that networking with other small business owners is the way to find a better way to operate. It's the way to find new customers, but it takes a lot of time. And to some point, there's a human connection you have to be making. AI can't do it all. But who am I supposed to network with? Why? How do I make sure that I'm staying in touch with the right people? Very similar to what you just said about grading your leads. How do you grade your network and know what you should do? And so that's Ali is basically lets you ask someone, hey, go look at my data. And Ali doesn't just have who's in your network, but Ali knows who's in everybody, all of their networks. So Ali can look at hundreds, if not thousands of contacts in all at once and figure out where your opportunities lie so you can spend your time wisely. So I'm going to play this video now. I have a video demo. And you see down at the bottom of the screen, for all of our members, they're going to see Ask Ali, and you can start asking questions, just like very similar to what you were just showing, Lina. So here, who in my network is most likely to refer me a customer? I'm connected with lots of people, but really, where should I be focusing on my time? And so Ali will go and look at who you're connected to, how well you know them, who they know that you don't know yet, and will come back with you and say, well, I found Thomas. This is a person that he's the strongest partner. He's similar, he's in the same kind of industry, he's in the same community, he's really active on the platform. This is where you might want to go focus your time. Then you could say, so wait, but which relationships am I losing? Where do I need to follow up because I haven't been in touch in a while? And so similarly, Ali can go look at your conversation history and see who you've talked to recently, who you haven't, and come back and say, oh, you know what, Jolene is you really important to you, but you have not chatted or reached out to her. And here's how you might similarly, hey, can you help me draft a message? Can you help me maybe write a recommendation? Because she's someone who I think is fantastic, and I haven't done that yet on the platform. And then lastly, we could say, because we really believe that the best way to network is to give something rather than to ask for something. So, who in my network should I introduce? Look at everybody I know. Which two people would really benefit from knowing one another that I could make that great introduction? And so, here it can go through and say, well, wow, you've got these two connections. They don't know each other yet, but they're both looking to meet businesses like each other. And you could make this introduction, make both of them really happy. And obviously, they're going to be much more likely to help send you a referral in return. So you can see quite similar kind of an experience, right? Giving AI not just the ability to draft some text, but access to information so it can actually go out and do the work for you. Otherwise, you'd spend days clicking through hundreds of connections trying to figure out what you should do and who you should introduce. Now you know instantly, and it's that simple to make it happen. So we're really excited, and this is just the beginning. We have so many more plans, so many more things in the works for building this really smart AI into Alignable to help our users network, and that is coming. So if you are a paid user, a paid member right now, go. This is live in your account, and if not, you can upgrade for as little as $23 a month. So it's not expensive to get access to this and many, many more features to really help make your network work for you in as little time as possible. All right.
That's
So
amazing. That would make networking so much easier for me. It's like such not a natural trait, and so I want to go use that right now.
I know I am such the same way. I mean, and our members tell us all the time they love us because we're not LinkedIn. And small businesses don't really need or use LinkedIn much anyway. But
Mhm.
for someone in this kind of the white collar tech space, man, it would be nice if LinkedIn was helpful instead of just a bunch of people beating their chest, right? It would just be
Totally.
so nice to help manage those relationships. So, with that said, Brittany is back and she has been looking at the questions that everyone has been asking and has hopefully picked some, and we can play Stump Geoff and Lina.
Awesome. And I just want to let everyone know you had some incredible questions in the chat. So we're going to do a summary of all the questions afterwards, and we will get you some answers. We'll send out a really nice doc back to you via email with some kind of top questions and answers for you, because we really appreciate all of the great questions that came in. But Lina, one thing people were super excited about, I think we got 80 questions for you to repeat your 4 Ds.
Yeah, okay. It's delegation, which is deciding what work to do yourself and what to offload to AI. It's description, accurately prompting AI with like clear intent, context, and the desired tone. Discernment, so fact checking, evaluating reasoning, and ensuring the output aligns with your values. And diligence, taking personal responsibility and accountability for verifying that what the final results are before deploying them. We have a course online called AI Fluency for SMBs that just went live earlier this week that dives into these in depth.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And we got a lot of questions as well around, will there be a recording? So if you didn't even get to write all those D's down right now, don't worry. You can pick it up in the recording. We will be all sending you guys the recording after this. Another big question that came through was, Claude gives you different models to use. How do you know when to use the right one and when to do it?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Most use cases, Sonnet is the best model for. If they're kind of like really more simple writing, kind of really quick churn use cases, Haiku would probably be the best model for that. It's kind of our fastest model. And then Opus is for longer reasoning, agentic tasks, and it's our most. It is our frontier model.
Amazing. And one question that came up, and we got a few variations of this as well, is what would you say like the top 2 or 3 automations are that small businesses seem to be utilizing the most via Claude? Document processing, email drafting. What do you find are some of those top ones?
Yeah, I think right now, so To get automation working and get those workflows working, you need to connect your connectors. And so, in order for you to get that context and work through your tools, and so some of the popular connectors are first is email. So, like you said, the email drafting, but also the synthesizing of the email and prioritizing of the emails and pinging you when there are pinging the owner when there's something that's more like an escalation that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. The second is reporting. If you're connected, to your well, if you have a warehouse or if you're connected to your QuickBooks or PayPal or other tooling, reporting and sending out a weekly report or a daily report on sales volume or invoice volume, that is a really popular tool. And
Amazing.
that's a really popular use case.
And we have so many people who, as you were talking about Claude for small business, the questions were just flooding in. And one of the kind of familiar questions that came up a few times was, what are some best practices that people can do to kind of clean up and optimize current projects and chats and start to kind of move that into the extension of small business for Claude?
Yeah, so the question is, so how to clean up current chats, and so something that you can do is ask Claude, what context do you already have about me, about my business, and then kind of work through, okay, here's maybe what's not helpful and what is helpful, and say, okay, Claude, erase this from your memory or commit this to your memory, and that'll help you work. That'll make the skills or automations much more impactful for you. But you don't really, I think, need to uh, really like clean up your chats and projects. It's more once you have those workflows that you want to run and leverage Claude for small business for, it's just transitioning to working through them through cowork.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll say I do that all the time. I start in
Mhm.
chat and I'll have a conversation because I'm not really sure what I'm trying to do yet, or I just want to explore some options. And then once it's like I
Yeah,
kind of get solidified, I say, okay, summarize this so I can bring it into cowork and start getting this project done. And
totally.
so Claude will just write a nice little summary, copy paste it into cowork, and you're kind of off to the races, and you skip a beat.
Exactly. And we do also, and I think apologies if I misunderstood the question too. We have a tool called Project in chat as well, and so I think I mistook projects for the chat feature rather than
Mm.
projects.
Got it. Both answers were awesome. And we are at times, so the last question that I would love to leave you guys with is, we just got a lot of questions and wanting to know really, how do you kind of get up to speed the fastest? And so one thing that you had mentioned was, start by kind of just making sure it knows your tone and have it draft an email for you. So I love that feedback. But for people who are maybe wanting to make the switch from other LLMs or other AI tools, what would be kind of the easiest way for them to make those transitions when they already have a lot of data that they've put into those other tools and those chats?
Yeah, with any tool, ours or any other tools that you may be using, you can always ask, give me a file for me to transfer to another tool. So give me a context file about everything that you know so that my other chats can kind of get ramped up on the work we've been doing together.
That's perfect. Well, I want to thank you, Lina, so much for offering your time and all of the amazing demos and education for our group today. Geoff, thank you so much for all of the wonderful questions that you had prepared for Lina. We will be sending out the recording to you guys via email, as well as kind of a top list of questions and answers. And Geoff, I'll hand it over to you to kind of just tell us quickly about this special opportunity that we have. You'll be able to find this link in the chat and in that post-event email as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you everyone so very much for attending. I hope this was helpful. I learned things today and I hope you all did as well. So this is a really, really exciting opportunity. We have at Alignable have worked with MIT and Harvard in the past on studies. Those studies have even gone so far as to impact public policy in the federal government and during COVID. But now we are doing it again with Anthropic because, as we know, this technology is moving so fast, and we know it is going to have dramatic impact across all industries and across the world. But we care about small business. And so the question is, how much can this type of technology really impact small business? So as a result, Anthropic is the one really putting the money where their mouth is here. They are giving away a lot of free Claude Cowork, which is the tool you use to access Claude for small business. They're giving away 4 months of it free to anyone who participates in this study. So, as Brittany said, there's a link. You'll just all you're asked to do is kind of share after, during or after this time period. How did this impact your business? Were you able to see measurable change in maybe your sales or the time that you spent? And that's all you got to do as a result for getting access to these tools, because our goal really is to learn as quickly as possible how to make AI as helpful to small businesses as we possibly can. So I think it's a fantastic study. We've got some brilliant data minds who are going to look at the data and the responses to try and really figure out where we should all go next, kind of as a society, as a group of small businesses. But in the meantime, participating gets you access to the tools you just saw, these amazing tools, for free. So take advantage, sign up. And again, I can't thank everyone enough for attending. We will follow up with all of the resources that were discussed, the recording, and I hope everyone here has a fantastic weekend.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good day.